Welcome to the Explainer. So glad you're joining us today. Look, if you've ever geared up for a massive IT certification, you totally remember the drill, right? The endless stacks of flashcards, trying to cram dozens of three-letter acronyms into your brain. Well, today we're going to completely shatter the tired myth that modern cloud certifications are just about rote memorization. They are absolutely not, especially when we're talking about running complex, real-world AWS environments. To really dig into this, we're grounding today's explainer in some stellar source material. The Get It Done Certified Practice Exam Questions for the AWS Certified CloudOps Engineer Associate Guide. Specifically, we're looking at the SOA-C03 exam. We are going to unpack exactly how this exam tests your real-world fire drill judgment. Because honestly, it's not about just knowing what a service is. It's about what you actually do when that service breaks, or needs to scale, or, you know the feeling, needs an emergency security patch at 2 a.m. in production. Okay, let's jump right into the agenda. We've got a great roadmap today. 1, beyond rote memorization. 2, the 5 exam domains. 3, inside a scenario question. 4, spotting the decoys. And finally, 5, the readiness scorecard. Let's get to it. Section 1, beyond rote memorization. Here's the reality. Modern cloud environments demand hands-on, gritty operational troubleshooting. You literally can't just rely on textbook theory when a distributed app is suddenly throwing latency spikes across multiple AWS accounts, right? The exam demands practical architectural reasoning. It tests you on deploying, securing, and automating actual production workloads. Can you use Systems Manager to automate a patch baseline across hundreds of EC2 instances? Can you recover a database in a strict 30-minute window? This is a true test of a CloudOps engineer's mettle. It's all about how you balance those real-world trade-offs between high availability, performance, and of course, cost. Moving right along to Section 2, the 5 exam domains. Now, what's really interesting here is we can see exactly what AWS values in a modern cloud operator just by looking at the exam blueprint. Check out this beautiful, even balance of the top 3 operational domains. Monitoring and remediation, reliability and business continuity, and deployment and automation are all weighted equally at 22% each. Think about that for a second. That means a massive 66% of your score is purely about keeping the lights on, automating the heavy lifting, and making sure systems survive failures. Networking and security make up the remaining 34%. So AWS is sending a really clear signal. A CloudOps engineer absolutely has to be a well-rounded problem solver. Section 3, inside a scenario question. All right, enough theory. I want you to step right into the test taker's mindset with me for a second. Here is a classic scenario straight from our source guide. Imagine an API running on EC2 instances in an auto-scaling group sitting behind an application load balancer. CPU is a reliable indicator of load here, and the ops team wants this group to maintain an average of about 55% CPU. But, and here's the kicker, without manually calculating scaling steps. Which policy should they use? Take a second. Put yourself in the hot seat. How are you going to automate this elegantly? Let's reveal the options. We've got A, step scaling, B, target tracking, C, scheduled scaling, or D, increase max size. Okay, if you guess B, you are absolutely spot on. Target tracking is the winner because it automatically and dynamically adjusts the desired capacity of your auto-scaling group to keep your selected metric, CPU utilization in this case, right near that defined goal of 55%. It literally takes the manual math completely out of the equation. Section 4, spotting the decoys. You know, getting the right answer is really only half the battle. Now it's time to play detective and figure out exactly how the exam writers craft these super clever decoys. Let's look at the first 2 distractors and just apply the rule of elimination. Option A, step scaling. Sure, it reacts to alarms, but it actually requires the team to manually define the scaling increments. And remember, the scenario explicitly asked us to avoid manual calculations. Then there's option C, scheduled scaling. It's a great feature, don't get me wrong, but it's really only for predictable, time-based demand, like a payroll app that you know is going to peak at 8 a.m. every single weekday. It absolutely doesn't dynamically maintain a continuous 55% CPU target. And then, of course, there's decoy D, keeping the desired capacity fixed and just increasing the maximum size. This one falls apart completely if you understand how AWS architecture actually works. Raising the max size only gives the group permission to scale up in the future. It doesn't actively create a policy that adjusts capacity today. So the crucial takeaway here is that understanding why these answers are wrong is just as important as knowing what's right. That is exactly the kind of architectural judgment AWS is looking for. Section 5, the readiness scorecard. To wrap things up, the source material outlines this brilliantly simple philosophy for moving away from just hoping you're ready to objectively proving it with a structured readiness scorecard. Step 1 is knowledge coverage validation, basically making sure you have absolutely zero blind spots across those 5 domains we talked about earlier. Step 2 is weakness identification. This means objectively rating your confidence so that any low-scoring domain immediately becomes a revision priority. And finally, Step 3, exam day risk reduction. Confirming you aren't just memorizing facts, but you can actually handle scenario-based, multi-step problems under a ticking clock. It's just a fantastic, measurable system to completely eliminate exam day uncertainty.
I really want to leave you with this powerful thought directly from the guide. Most candidates fail not because they lack intelligence, but because they misjudge readiness. Just let that sink in for a second. It's not about how smart you are. It's entirely about having a reliable system to measure your true operational capability before you ever sit for the exam.
So looking beyond just passing the SOC-03 exam, think about your day-to-day work. What does true cloud mastery actually look like for your career? How do you plan to validate your own architectural judgment out in the real world when that next production fire drill inevitably happens? Let that question fuel your next learning session. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep exploring.